Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 26th day of December 2018. Well, I hope everybody survived the holiday. I barely did. But, that's just me. We binge watched a few things on Netflix and Hulu and all of that. Watched a little bit on Amazon. Watched a movie. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it, though, but Mary McCormick was in it. And a guy that is on that. I can't think of that either. It's about that family that lives up in the Appalachian Mountains or something. Anyway, they get into all kinds of trouble. Anyhow, he's in that, and it was really good. It was about a couple of cryptographers that the government was using, basically, and to take something out of to decrypt a message out of a satellite. So interdimensional people were involved, and I don't know. It was interesting. It was if you look at it from the standpoint of what's possible, I think that all of that is, and so it was just a really. We just found it. We just kind of scrolling through and found it and watched it. At times, it was somewhat disturbing, but it was just interesting, and the acting was real good, and I don't know. It was. I recommend if I could remember the name of it. Go on Amazon and look for it, and just look for Mary McCormick, and you'll see it. It's one of the newer featured movies now that I think not Netflix but Amazon. I think it's an Amazon. It might even be an Amazon movie. So one that they did. So anyhow, the other thing I did was I put together a resistance bind rune. For those folks that are like me, that don't happen to, that didn't vote for the guy in the Oval Office, the current occupant. I got to see if I drew a card. I don't think so. Nope. And anyhow, you see online hashtag resistance or hashtag resist or whatever. And it's basically letting people know that you actually don't believe the way this guy does. And so you're kind of resisting what he's offering all of us. So I thought with the government shutdown and all of that, it might be nice to have a bind rune to just sort of focus on and to keep our warrior within, strong and assertive and to stay strong and focused, while the next Congress comes into effect here in the next week or so. I think it's the 3rd that they come into the new Congress takes effect. So we'll have a whole new House of Representatives and a whole different balance of power there. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I just thought it would be nice to do that. And I wrote it up on the blog. I think I either did it Friday or Saturday. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is what it looks like. I'll get in there. But it's a blend of Tiwas and Iwas and Nathis and Fehu. And you can check that out on the blog at imsteppingaside.com. And it's just called Resistance Bind Rune. But you're welcome to use it. There's a better picture of it on the blogs where you can actually see it up close. And you can draw it out. I like to use I like to have my husband, well, he cuts trees for me, cuts limbs off of trees for me, and he will then slice them into nice little sections so I can either use them, as an altar tile or, like this would be an altar tile. And I usually do runes on there or bind runes or whatever. Sometimes I'll do like the planetary spirits. Well, here's a bind rune. Here's another bind rune. Oh, and here's a focus that I did for meditation and for trance work. But anyhow, what I wanted to talk about anyway, not only to show you guys the bind rune and to tell you where you can go get it. It's just for personal use, not commercial, okay? So but let me tell you what a bind rune is, because I had somebody ask me if they could use a grouping of them as a tattoo. And I tried not to, you know, be a downer on all this, but let me explain what a bind rune is before we get started. Bind runes are magic, they're rune magic. And what they are, and it depends on how you want to do them, you know, how you actually create them. Some people might just choose the ones they want for a particular purpose. I don't do it that way. I cast a circle and then I set my intention, and then I begin drawing 3 to 5 runes. Usually you don't want to do any more than 5 in a bind rune. It just gets to be a little too messy. Uh, but basically I'll draw 3 to 5 runes out of the bag and just allow them, you know, like I do here. I just let the runes fall through my hand with my hand in the bag. They fall through, and whatever's left, that's the rune I'm going to take. Well, I think I did 4 runes this time. I think is what I did. And I stopped and I created the bind rune. And I find that that's actually my process of doing it. And I find when I do it that way, the runes just essentially decide what the bind rune is going to be. Well, the point of all that, though, is that you're taking separate energies and you're bringing them together for a specific purpose. Okay? Now, each individual bind rune are for different purposes. And if you're going to take a whole bunch of them and put them in a line, typically what you have then is called a rune script, which is another form of magic. Typically, though, you wouldn't use bind runes in them. You would use just individual runes. So you could essentially do a rune script instead of a bind rune, but it's still a form of rune magic. So if you're going to take all of these different runes, you know, which are different, essentially different spells, okay? Say you've got 7 different runes you're going to use. Those are 7 different spells for different things. So what you would then risk doing if you did that is that you would be incorporating different energies together that maybe are working at cross purposes. You know, you don't know, especially if you're going to take somebody else's rune magic and use it, which, you know, I freely give to people. It's fine if you want to use it. The ideal way, of course, is to learn the runes yourself and create your own bind rune from them. It's not difficult to do. You generally, you know, a lot of these flow into one another. In fact, when I talk about the runes on this, I talk about them that way. For example, you could say the rune Elwaz, for example, looks like an M. Well, it looks like Laguz forward and reverse. See, Laguz is this way. So you can see different runes contained within them. Othala is Ingwaz and Gebo together. So you can see how they flow into one another. So it's not difficult, and you will never make a mistake in creating your bind rune. But the issue might be if you want to take already existing bind runes and use them together in one expression, because they were never designed to be that way. If you had 5 or 6 different bind runes, you'd have 5 or 6 different spells working, and maybe not in agreement with one another, you see? So anyway, just food for thought about bind runes and but just understand what they actually are. They're a form of container magic, what I call container magic, okay? So you have one idea, one intention that you're casting in the form of a sigil, you see? So, you know, use bind runes, create them. They're wonderful ways of practicing magic, but be careful how you combine them with other things. Now, it's not that I haven't done a ritual where I've taken specific bind runes that I have created and used them together on the altar. But the difference is I know what I did them for, and I know what was happening when I was crafting them in each one. And the only way I do that is if I'm absolutely certain that those energies are going to align purposefully and not get all, you know, mixed up. So anyhow, that's just something I wanted to add. I don't know if that individual that spoke to me about this watches this. If that person does, great. You know, I said kind of all of this. I think you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to do that, then you have to then you take responsibility, I guess, for that magic. Okay. If you're going to take runes that have been, or bind runes that have been created by someone else for a particular intention, and you're going to redefine all that, then they become yours and you're responsible for the outcome, basically. So, and this is just indicated that they're just learning to be a witch. So if that's the case, this is not something that they probably ought to try. I suggested choose one, choose the one that resonates the most, and go with that one if you want to use that one. But all of them, I don't know about that. Maybe, might be okay. It isn't something I would do, but and I actually crafted the rune, the bind runes. So if I'm not going to do it, maybe others shouldn't either. So anyhow, just something to think about. It's exciting when you first come upon runes. You see all this stuff, and it's so meaningful. And if it's something that resonates, you just want to get out there and do it. And I get that, really, I do. But slow down. It's like when I taught karate. You have the lower belts, the white belts they're brand new. They're learning yellow belt. Okay, they're learning the yellow belt techniques and the forms and the basics and all of that. And so they're all excited about what they're learning. They're learning how to punch and to strike and to learn how the body moves when you're doing that to someone. When you're responding to their attack, and how to set up the body for the next move and all of that. And so they get very excited. We had one student, he got his yellow belt, and it turned out, and then it was the fair time. Okay, it was fair week, and so went to the county fair, and they all, a group of students went, and they came back and they ratted him out, because he was excited and he's looking for trouble. Well, no. So I wasn't a black belt yet at the time, just my husband was, and so he was the primary instructor at that point. I didn't. In our school, students didn't teach until you got your brown belt, and so there are 3 levels of brown and Kempo, and so I got to teach during then, and then also when I was a black belt. But until that time, I didn't, and so I was still a student when this happened, and so I wasn't part of the conversation. But he had to talk to him and say, look, man, you don't know enough. You know enough to get yourself in trouble. And that's kind of the parallel to this. When you're learning witchcraft, when you're learning magic, when you're trying to come to terms with what all of this is, especially if you're not a natural born witch, if you're somebody that is just called to it later on in life. So you didn't, do this growing up or anything like that. It's very difficult. You want to do all these fun things, and it's all exciting, and you just can't get ahead of yourself. That's all. Learn the responsibilities regarding it. Learn what can go wrong. Learn you got to learn the real meanings of the runes. If you're going to do rune magic, it's the only way it's going to be meaningful for you. Don't allow someone else's magic to be yours. Create your own. Use someone else's to learn from, certainly, and as a springboard, but try to make everything your own. It's like there's a lot of different chants that go around. Not spell chants are one in particular. By the knot of one, the spell's begun. Well, there's a lot of ways to redo that spell, and every witch is here it is, but make it your own. So change the words a little bit to make it yours, and so everyone does that. So you just change it a little bit and make it your own, and then it has meaning for you, because it's your intention that's being cast, not someone else's. So anyhow, food for thought. So anyhow, let's talk about the numerology. Today would be an 8-day in this month of it's a 3 months, so that's catalytic energy and unity and triplicities, mind, body, spirit in alignment. And so we have a day of practical matters and leadership and strength and all of that. It is Wednesday, so that is a Mercury day. So we're going to stress communication and reason and intellectual pursuits today. But I think that's it for the housekeeping part. So let's count 13 and see what we have for today. It began snowing on Christmas Eve here, and we had a little bit of snow yesterday. It's gone now for the most part. But we pulled Justice today. That's the 11th card of the major arcana. Put my cards over there. I got too much on my little table here. So anyhow, this is what we've got. We've got kind of a, I think it's the candle that's making it happen. There we go. There. The 11th card is numerologically, it's a master number. 11, 22, 33. The dual numbers are considered master. You can reduce them. So we're talking balance, and clearly here you can see the two pillars. You can see the scales in one hand, the sword of justice in the other, of reason. So we're talking intellect here, and air, and balance, elemental air. There are other cards, adjustment is Crowley's version of this. And there we think Lady Justice, and I can't tell for sure if this is a king or a queen, with the longer hair and everything. It could be either. This could indicate a legal situation in your life, or maybe a lack of balance, or the need for balance. But as the 11th card, we're talking illumination, aren't we? When things are not in balance, then we can't interact with one another well. If we're always oppressing other people, if we're always preferring self over others, living in balance is something that balanced reasoning, equality, egalitarianism. But basically, we're talking about what's fair, and about what's reasonable to expect. I would say that as far as illumination goes, we are not expressing that in our lives when we can't remain in balance with one another. It doesn't mean that everything is always going to be 50-50, but it's the willingness to let things, move as they need to, and to trust in the process, that fairness is going to be at the heart of everything. We see a lot of expressions right now during this holiday time that's just horrifying, of things that are not in balance. We have people that are furloughed, people that are out of work right now that work for the government, that aren't there, or they're working for no paycheck. And it almost seems like, the guy in the Oval Office thinks he can take that money and then move it over for his wall. It's like he doesn't understand how this works at all. I mean, at all. So when we think about the card justice, we think about balance and fairness, don't we? We think about the rule of law. We think about this noble idea of excellence in all things. We think about not getting something surreptitiously, but by hard work and honesty. I just read an article that said that the daughters of the podiatrists that fabricated the bone spur thing for him, it's all a lie. It was never real. The bone spur thing. I mean, it was all a joke, when we heard about it. Cadet bone spurs got out of the military, got out of serving in Vietnam. Well, nobody believed it. Well, now apparently the daughters of this doctor are coming out and saying, yeah, it was all a lie. It's all fabricated to keep him out of jail, or not out of jail, out of the military. That was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? Well, again, it's like someone who endlessly lies. I mean, we're all watching it now. It's hard, to have someone in your life that lies that much, that has so much effect on your life, that simply makes it up as he goes along. It's tough dealing with that. I have a neighbor that's like that. Everything that comes out of his mouth, is a lie. You can almost see it. Well, you can see it with the guy in the Oval Office too. You can almost see the wheels turning. You can almost see them build the story as they go along. The one I'm talking about, he'll literally, I'm not kidding, and it's so bizarre. He will literally, in the course of maybe a 5-minute conversation, and I've done it intentionally just to see if I can get him to do it, and he does. I can get him to zigzag around. I can get him to totally disagree with himself, and I can get him to do it several times. And usually, I did it somewhat recently. Well, it hasn't been that recent, but the last time I did it, and because I just wanted to see, because you get this impression when he's talking that he's literally pulling it out of where the whole way, and I wanted to see if I could move it around. I'm a witch. I don't know. I don't usually get into people that much, but I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. It's like, wow, wow, wow. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? He just disagreed with himself, and he's thoroughly convinced of it. And he's like contradicting himself throughout this whole thing. I'm like, I wonder if I can move him around on it. Sure enough, I think I got him to change his mind like 3 times. Totally convinced, that this has been his point all along. No. So, but that's the thing, their feet don't touch the ground. There's nothing real in their lives. And so they can only grab from every single little moment and create from that moment. So there's a lack of continuity with these folks. And I don't know why. I don't know if there is something in their brain structure that makes this happen, but it almost seems biological. Okay. It almost seems clinical. So that they do this, because it's not something that remember, it was on Saturday Night Live. John Lovett played the liar, and you could see it's like, oh yeah, and then it was on to something else, but you could see it, right? That's not what these guys do. They literally live in the little tiny moments that are disconnected from everything else, which gives them license to lie the way they do. It's got to be pathological. It's got to be. I don't know what else it could be. I don't know how you could possibly keep all of it straight. So you just forget about it. It doesn't exist. I'm in this moment now. This is what I'm saying. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, no, this is what I'm saying. It's weird, isn't it? It's just weird. It's not right. There's something wrong with these people. Brain damage or something. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, Rado, which I think is the 5th rune of the Elder Futhark. Let me look. Yes. So we're talking change, and we're talking momentum and motion. We're talking integration with others, harmony. Think rider and horse. Think passenger and whatever it is they're riding in. So in a sense, we need to learn. It's like the chariot in the tarot. You need to learn when to take control and when to allow. So That's true for it also blends well with justice because it's about right order, basically, and about movement through obstacles. But let's take a look here. There's Ansu's, there's Kinez. I've got to go back one. Yeah, another air element. So we're talking elemental air in both this, with its focus on reason, and the sword there, that indicates that. But Ritos is basically our journey, okay? It's about the journey and about the process. It's less about the goal and more about the process. So whereas justice, in a sense, could be viewed the same way, it can also be viewed as an outcome too. But it's basically finding our true purpose, isn't it? But also justice and right order. That's right. So I wasn't imagining that. So that's there as well. But in balance, what it's telling us is that we create a harmonious working relationship or harmonious interactions with others, whatever it is, whether it's at work or at home or between friends, what have you. Excuse me. So when we have a focus on justice, you see, we're talking essentially about the same thing. We're talking about living in balance with one another, doing things in a way that reflects honor and justice. We need to be able to trust people around us. So therefore, we each have to be trustworthy. And it's about the process, isn't it? It's not so much about the goal. You know, we might never reach an end goal with anything, you know. Maybe it's just about getting through the day with one another in a way that respects each other, in a way that doesn't oppress other people. Excuse me. We just had another child die at the border. And how is that even possible? It's number two, the second child. There's sexual assault that's happening. There's absolutely no justice happening, is there? Because and then what do? They dump us. They dump several hundred of them off without any warning. I think at a local shelter there, in Texas somewhere, El Paso, or I don't know where it was. They came in. They brought over 200 of them, I guess, of the immigrants, and they released them, put them on buses, took them there, dumped them off. Wasn't room in the shelter for all of them. Some of them had to be outside in the cold. No money, no nothing. Didn't call any family. Didn't call any relatives to come and get them. Nothing. They just dumped them off. Yeah. So is that this? No. No. You know, the wheels have come off the bus, haven't they? They really have. I'm hoping that the new year will bring some changes so that we can get a little more focused on what's just and fair and get away from the oppression. Um, Whatever you think about people trying to come to this country for a better life, that's really all they're doing. Now, maybe this isn't the place for them. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not going to even get into that. But surely we can all agree that we treat people with compassion and fairness and to do right by them, um, even if it's to help find them another place. But the operative word here is help, not just dump them off and in the cold at night. You just don't do that. It's not justice. It's not manifesting justice. It's not manifesting an integrated, harmonious, righto relationship with others. Okay. I like the rune Rado because it to me it just means even progression with one another. We have to, if the rider in the horse, if someone riding a horse does not integrate with that horse the way they need to, the horse isn't going to let them ride. The horse is going to buck them off. We have to come together in that type of harmony with one another, or this wonderful experiment of ours in this country is going to implode. It's what happens. The chaos just gets too much. The conflict gets too much. Nobody can talk to one another. Nobody can listen. And pretty soon, there it goes. So let's hope that common sense is going to return and that we're going to see our way clear back to one another and be in harmony with one another and have a shared purpose here. So anyhow, be good to one another. Be good to yourself. Check out the blog. Go find that bind rune. Remember, it's magic. And we'll see you. Let's see, I guess it was Wednesday today. Yeah, today's Wednesday. So we'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Blessed be.